This is.
This is Dolores Slavin.
And how did you start out in the legal field?
My first job was in 1968, and I worked for a firm that is now known as Blank Room. I worked for an attorney that was in mainly the corporate department, and at that time you didn't have any you didn't need any legal experience. You learned on the job. Sometimes it was a little frightening because you had no idea what you were doing, but you did have other secretaries that you could go to. At that time, there really were no paralegals. The secretaries pretty much did all the work that the paralegals now do. It was pretty varied what I did. I did some divorce work, I did corporate work, I did a little bit of litigation. Now they pretty much need to have legal experience before they become secretaries, and the paralegals then developed into their own field over the course of the years. I would say maybe 10 years after I had started, and I was really at that point a legal secretary, but I did deal with the paralegals, so I knew a lot of what they did do. I was all the things that the secretaries used to do, such as in the corporate field, the minutes we used to do ourselves. The paralegals then became the attorney would just meet with them, tell them what he needed, and they would then draft out the minutes and do the minutes. And in the tax field, they would tell them what they needed. And in the firm I was in, they specialized in pretty much in one area. And the paralegals, accordingly, would then be whether they were tax or estate administration or litigation. And the work that the secretaries once did were now done by the paralegals.
Did you have to get the coffee for your attorney?
When I first started, yes, I did. But it was not a big deal at that stage. I was 19 years old. It was 1968, and that's what secretaries did, and I had no problem with it. Over the course of the years, that changed, and the attorney I worked for, the first 15 years I did, the one I worked for the next 15 years, he got his own coffee. And by that time, most of the attorneys did just get their own coffee. The secretaries were no longer doing that. Paralegals never did coffee for attorneys. They were pretty much their own entity. They would have their own offices, and sometimes the secretaries would help them with their work, the typing end of it. The last attorney I worked for was a retired partner, and he was one of the founders of the firm, and I did get his coffee for him. But at that point, it was mostly just a personal secretary for him. I worked for some other associates and partners, and they all got their own coffee. That was no longer a thing that secretaries did.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Dolores.
Oh, you're very welcome.